So before you go anywhere else with Audacity, the first thing you'll need to do is actually locate the software. So in order to locate it, you'd enter the name into your browser. From there, once you have found it, you've got to remember that the website you're looking for is audacityteam.org. You'll click on that. Once it has opened, it will bring you to this screen. You'll then need to look for download Audacity. So you click on that. From there, it will take you to one of three options and you'll look for the one that's relevant to you. In this case, I'm using Windows, Audacity for Windows, as opposed to Audacity for Mac OS and Audacity for Linux. So I click on Audacity for Windows. From there, it takes me to this page, which shows the current versions. In this case, at the time of recording, it is Audacity 2.4.2 installer. Always look for the installer. Click on that. And then from there, it takes you to this window here. And on this window, all you're really looking for is Windows installer. And then you'll click on that and then follow the on-screen instructions. That will allow you to download Audacity. And once you have it downloaded, you can either save it to your start menu, which it should do itself automatically, but I would always pin it to my taskbar just so it's easily accessible for me as well. So that's how you install Audacity. So in this section, we'll look at the interface on Audacity, and I'll be going through the main points that you need to know. So as you can see, this is the Audacity interface. It's where your work will be done. So effectively what you're looking at is like any tape, CD, DVD player, or any other device that you have that usually provides some level of output. It's got a number of buttons here which should look familiar to you. The first one is the pause button, followed by play, followed by stop, followed by skip to the start, followed by skip to the end, followed by the big red button, which is record. Now these are the main functions of Audacity, and it's important that you know what those are before we go anywhere else. The other main parts that you'll need to know is this box here, which is for your microphone. So if you do have a microphone with you, then of course you'll want to ensure that that is plugged in and showing as connected as well. So you'll need to look for your microphone and attach that also. If you are looking to record in stereo, which you presumably are, and that's the ideal setting, then ensure that it's also connected and to the stereo function. And again, it's important to know that this is the playback function here. So when you look for this, in my case, it's the Microsoft Sound Mapper. This is where your audio plays out from. So again, you may have some other extensions plugged in, so it's important to know that. Up here is your microphone volume, so the recording volume, so the sound in volume. So if you wanted to control that, you do that through here whilst recording. This is your playback volume, so that's how loud it sounds when it's playing back to you. At the top here, important to know, this is your recording level. You won't want it to be too high over here, as in the red, because at that point the audio may become distorted. And again, you've got another gauge here, which is your playback level or playback volume. So this is how loud it's playing back. And again, that can easily be controlled for yourself as well. So that's important. Those are the main parts to know. It's also important to remember that this setting should always be set to 44-100, which is quite standard for recording. Over here, you've got our time selections. So again, once we start recording and stop, that will keep updating as we go along. And again, this is the live count, so that will show us how far along we've gone once we start recording. So those are the main points of the interface that you need to know in order to use Audacity in the first place. You also do have some editing tools such as copy over here. You've also got cuts and paste, which is standard. So if you're looking at Word documents or even sending an email, you are able to highlight selections, copy that, and then paste it into another bit. So that's also something you could do, or you can cut and paste just as you would do on a Word document or other service available as well. So of course, those are the main ones, and that is the interface in a nutshell for Audacity. Next, we'll need to look at recording. So in order to record, all you'll need to do is look for that big red button that we talked about earlier, which is for record. And then once you're ready to record, you just hit the button. It's quite simple, straightforward, fortunately. So all you'll need to do is hit the big red button, which I'll do just now, and record a sample bit of audio just so you can follow. And hopefully you've got the software alongside you just now so you can also give it a try as we're going through it. Okay, so we're going to hit the record button. This is a recording on the Audacity course. Once I'm ready to stop, I will either hit the spacebar or stop itself, at which point the audio will also stop. So again, that's what you're looking at there is called a waveform. And this waveform is essentially everything that you are recording. So that's all my speech in one go. So if you can see that there, that's everything I've just said. So what I'll do from here is, just so you can get an idea, is I'll just hit play or spacebar in order to start it. In this case, I'll hit play. This is a recording on the Audacity course. When I'm ready to stop, I hit stop, and that was a sample of the recording that I've just done. Now, if I wanted to change anything around at that point, then I'll need to get into editing. So there are a few things that we can do, and I'll go through the first one in just a moment. So in terms of editing, you'll want to eliminate any background noise as much as possible in any case. So the first thing you'll want to do is to get what's called a noise profile. Now, if you look at this bit of audio, so as we discussed earlier, you can see that that's where I was speaking, meaning those waves there, as we call them, so the waveform. Anything after that, you can see there's a nice gentle line, which looks pretty good to me, almost insinuating that there's no background noise. So what I'll do here to ensure that there's nothing else that's trailing in the background is I will select this portion here. I will then go to Effects. From there, I'll go to Noise Reduction. And then I'll ask it to get the noise profile. Now, I would always leave these at the presets which they already are in. So I would leave it there. I'd click Get Noise Profile. So what I'm telling it is, can you see this silence here? I want you to get that noise profile because that's the way I want the background to be, as much as possible anyway. Then what I do is I double click. From there, you can go to Effect again. Again, go to Noise Reduction. And this time, instead of clicking Get Noise Profile, you're going to click OK. As in, I've told you what the noise profile that I want you to get is. Now I want you to apply it to everything, and then you'll click OK. From there, you might have noticed that the audio did seem to be a bit cleaner. And again, you can see that just through that there. You might have noticed it went down slightly and there was some reductions going on. That was it, just applying that filter into the track. So that's exactly how you reduce background noise in your recording. Next, you'll want to ensure that the audio isn't too loud. So a way you can do this is by normalizing the audio. So again, what you do from there is you would double click, then you click Effects, you then click Normalize, and I always go for the -6.0 dB, but you can do whatever you feel is applicable, and then click OK. You'll notice that it's reduced. See, the purpose of this is to ensure that it's not too loud. Now, the reason why it jumped it lower is to ensure that there was nothing beyond that range, beyond that -0.6 dB. So it's actually done that for us just there as we've applied it. So that's how you normalize audio to prevent peaking and clipping in your audio clips. In this section, we'll talk about removing breaths. So this is good for, in particular for adverts or explainer videos or anything that's quite similar where you might need to eliminate the breaths in the speech. I'll show you exactly what I mean. We'll start recording just now. This is a recording, and sometimes it's an advert, and sometimes it's not. But altogether, I can say it is a very nice recording. I would like to say this is a great recording. So I've just recorded some audio there for point of reference, and I'm about to zoom into this audio just so you can have an even closer look, which I'll just have a quick check now. Right, so all I'm doing here is I'm skipping right back to the beginning and I'm having a look at this audio. And in this audio, I can see that there are a few breaths. And by that, I mean, as I click play, keep an eye to see if you can hear any breaths. This is a recording, and sometimes it's an advert, and sometimes it's not. But altogether, I can say it is a very nice recording. I would like... Did you hear it right there? That's the breath that I was referring to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom into the audio. And again, if you've got a little scroller on your mouse, I always like to hold Control and then zoom up, as in scroll upwards, and you can zoom in. And if you look closely, you can actually see that breath is right there. I'll hit play. Now, on an advert, that's not exactly what you want to hear. You might notice that adverts are normally, especially the quick-witted ones, they're quite clean. You don't really hear any breaths. It's not a live setting, so all we want to hear is the audio itself. We want it to sound clean and professional. So in order to do that, what we do is we eliminate the breaths. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit delete on my keyboard after I've selected it, and that breath is now gone. I'm going to press play from where we were. It is a very nice recording. I would like to say this is a great recording. And there we are. That's how you eliminate breaths. I would go throughout the entire audio, and if it was an advert, so presumably a 30-second advert or even an explainer video, and I would eliminate all those breaths that I could find. And the reason for that is that we want the audio to be clean. So when we hear it, if you listen to any advert, you don't really hear any breaths. That's simply because in an advert scenario, you usually eliminate that to make sure that the audio sounds very punchy and clean and raw. So that's how you eliminate breaths in audio. So the next thing you might want to do is to introduce a background clip into your audio. So you've got your main audio, that's you speaking there, but perhaps you'd like to speak over music, or you'd like a background for your podcast, or else something similar as well. Or even you're doing an explainer video, for example, and you might need a bit of a background just going on as you're speaking, or even in some other scenarios that you might have as well. So in order to do that, you'll need to import audio into Audacity. And the way to do that is to locate your file. Here's one I prepared earlier. Then all you'll need to do is just drag and drop it, and you can just literally move it in. That's the easiest way. And as you can see, it's importing MP3 files. And as you can see there, it's actually imported the audio. I always go the drag and drop way because it's actually a lot easier and a lot smoother. But as you might notice, for the keen-eyed among you there, you might have noticed that this audio at the bottom here, which is a song, is much louder than my speech. So by the time that we play it back, it's going to be extremely loud. I'll play it just so you can hear. This is a recording on the Audacity course. As you can hear, just in that instance there, the song was extremely loud and my voice was extremely low. So you can actually look at two ways of dealing with this. One is the gain on my voice. So this is my voice here. And again, that's, as you can see there, you can also mute the channel. So that's what I'll do there. You've got mute, that's that. So what I've done is I'm now selecting it back to the beginning. Going skipping back, skip to the start. I'll press play or spacebar in this case. This is a recording on the Audacity course. Now what I'll do is I'll go to the gain or volume and I'll raise it up. And I'm going to ask it to raise by 5 dB. And again, I'll skip to the start. I'll press play. This is a recording on the Audacity course. As you can hear, it's much louder there. I'll bring it back down as it was only for point of reference. And again, what I'll do here is I'll unmute the track that I've just imported. And I'll click the mute button to unmute it. And I'll apply the same principle. I'm going to lower the volume here quite significantly so that by the time I actually play this track, it will be following my voice quite nicely. So I'm going to skip to the start and I'll press play so I can hear my voice on top of this audio track here. This is a recording on the Audacity course. And that's a great way to add music, as you can hear there, to your voice. So if you were doing an explainer video or some other podcast or something along those lines, or a voiceover as such, it would be a great idea to just add those two together and you can just put it underneath by lowering the volume there. So if you were looking to fade out, that's something that we'll cover in the next section. So if you were looking to start the track a bit later, I'll show you how to do that in the next clip. So you might have been in a position where you were recording a podcast, for example, and you had a lot of speech and you've decided that actually I'd like a really, really nice outro. So as I'm ending the show, I'd like the music to come in slowly. So what you can do is you can do what's called a fade out, or fade in of the track. And of course, that's you fading out there. So you've got to fade in and fade out, and the principle will be the same. I'll show you a fade in that you can apply. So the first thing you'll need to know is about the little tab here called time shift. It's the time shift tool. That allows you to move the tracks around, which can come in great handy. So all you do is you click on time shift. As you can see from the previous example, this is my voice. I'm actually moving it around, and that gives me the ability to move it wherever I need it to go. So we've already adjusted the levels, but let's say that I wanted my voice to sort of say something, and then slowly I'd like the track to start playing, but gradually make its way in. So all I'll do from there is I'll ask it where I would like it to select to start this fade in. I'd select it like that just by double clicking and dragging the mouse along. From there, I would go to Effects, and then I'll click Fade In. I've told it I want you to apply that fade in just to the music at the back over there. And now I've clicked Fade In, and as you can see, the audio sort of looks like a ice cream cone going inwards just that bit more. So as I click the track, so I start from the beginning, and I press play. This is a recording on the Audacity course. There we are, and as you heard right there, it was a beautiful fade in. So if it was an extended program and you wanted the background music to come in gradually, of course you can even increase that fade in to go even more. So if it was a long extended piece of speech that was going on and you wanted it to come in quite slowly, then again you could do the same principle and you could go for however long you want. And just as a point of reference, what I'll do here is I'll drag that along, and then I'll click Effect and fade in. And as you can see, the fade in starts happening even more gradually. This is a recording on the Audacity course. And as you can hear there, the audio begins to come in ever so slightly, gradually increasing over a period of time. So if you did want to introduce something, you could do that very gradually before you ended your program about there. Okay, so that is exactly how you fade in on Audacity. And also how you, not only that, but also how you also move audio across and along using the time shift tool as you drag it along. And that's how you do that. So once you are happy with your audio, you can always delete any part that you're not happy with. It's also important to note that Audacity is destructive editing, so therefore any changes you make are permanent, and that's quite an important one to remember and to take note of. So in this case, if I deleted this section of the audio by selecting everything I wanted and hitting the delete button, and let's say I wanted to also get rid of this part here. So if I drag the mouse along, double clicked, dragged it along, and then I hit delete key. You could also do it by clicking edit and delete, whichever was your preference. It cannot be undone and it will not be resalvaged unless you actually go to edit and undo delete. And if you was happy with how it was, then you can redo delete. However, any changes that you made previously, you'll have to undo delete quite a few times in order to restore it. So again, you want to get it right the first time in the ideal world. And if you are happy again, you can always redo delete. Once you're happy with the file, then all you'll need to do from there is to go to File. You'd be looking to export. You can export as WAV, which would be the best audio quality. However, that file is extremely heavy on your computer and will take up a lot of storage space. So again, it would be at your own discretion. And I would also note that WAV is negligibly different to the human ear in comparison to MP3. So I would always personally go for MP3 as opposed to WAV. So once you've got that, what it will do from here is load up your options, bringing you to, in this case, my folder, which is example. And I'll go to call it test 4. It's telling me it's saving the type as MP3, as I've asked. It's gone for all the presets, which I would leave. I'd also leave it in joint stereo because it's better for Audacity. And then I'll click save. It then reminds me that it will actually combine these two tracks together, which is what I want it to do. So I'll say OK. From there, it gives me this a bunch of tags here, which if I wanted to, I could fill that in. And that's details such as including the artist's name, the track title, if it was applicable. If you are a voiceover as such, or you're the person who's done the track, or even if it's a podcast or some other form of audio or media you've needed to record, you can fill these details in. It's very presentable when you're looking at the file from an external perspective. Coming from a radio background initially, I can say that we used to fill those things in all the time. However, it isn't essential. You can always just follow it up using the file name. So in this case, I'm going to leave it blank and I'm going to click OK. What it's doing from there is it's exporting the file, as in mixing it down for me and saving it as an MP3. And that's Audacity and how you save your file or export it as a file format, in this case, MP3.
Congratulations, you've reached the end of this Audacity course. You now know how to record, edit, and add music to your files. All the best in your Audacity journey.